Wednesday, December 10th, 2019, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning, I want to talk about how gold and silver, precious metals, are vital insurance outside the financial system. Before that, I will look at what the markets are doing, the next big hurdles coming for the markets and the financial system, and they're less than a week away, right? So let's quickly go through the markets as well. It's just before 8 a.m. London. It's 7:53. Yesterday, the stock market did drop about 1/3%. It wasn't a huge drop. Yes, it was 105 points in the Dow. S&P dropped about 10 points, and the NASDAQ composite dropped 35 points. But not a huge correction, right? Markets are still highly elevated, stock markets. Bond markets are fairly quiet. 10-year yield hovering around 1.8%. So right now, we've got spot gold, 1462.68, up just over $1. Range has been 1458.80 to 1463.50. Silver 1662, up 3 cents. So yeah, we're still in the same consolidative period for precious metals, I would say. The Dow right now, the Dow future, of course, is down 6 points, so virtually unchanged. So are the S&P futures and the NASDAQ 100 future. They're virtually unchanged this morning. S&P at 31.36, NASDAQ 100 at 83.63. We've got sterling 131.49. It did rise a little bit yesterday towards almost 132, but it's come back off. General election here in the UK is on Thursday, December 12th, right? The expectation is that the Conservative Party will win. Boris Johnson will stay Prime Minister, and that he will take the country out of the EU by the end of 2020, more than 4 years after the referendum, of course. The euro is at 110.70, up slightly against the US dollar, and the dollar is also up slightly against the yen at 108.61. Dollar down slightly against the Chinese yuan at 703.50. So the markets are very calm right now. Is it the calm before the storm? Who knows? Who knows? But what else? WTI crude is pretty much where we were yesterday, 58.88, so just below 59. Brent as well, 63.82, just below 64. So we are towards the higher end, though, in crude oil of the last few months, I would say. We've been stuck around 52 to 56, I would say, in WTI. The bond market, fairly quiet. We're down 1 basis point here. The 10-year yield is at 182. So quickly, the big events coming up. Of course, tomorrow we've got the FOMC meeting decision. It starts today, the meeting. I don't think the Fed is going to do anything unless we get a 2,000 point drop in the Dow today. I don't expect them to cut rates, even though they probably should cut rates. I don't think the economy is doing as well as it's portrayed by some of the headline numbers, right? Recommend the latest interview Greg Hunter did with John Williams of Shadow Stats. John Williams really dissect what is really happening to inflation and the economy. I think they did it a couple of days ago. Just go into Greg Hunter's channel and look for that. Yeah, the big events, though, of course, are going to be Sunday, December 15th. That's when the United States and China have set a deadline for signing phase one. It's not the whole trade deal, right? Is a deadline for signing the phase one. I think if there's no deal by then for phase one, tariffs will take effect. U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods. And then we've got also another important event. This is particularly for the financial markets, something that the mainstream media doesn't talk too much about, something that President Trump, as Greg Manerino mentioned yesterday in his video, hasn't said a word about, right? Because it shows how the financial system is in trouble right now. This is not normal. I've spoken about the repo market before. So yes, repo market has a very important day coming up. It's Monday, just the day after the trade deadline, Monday, December 16th. Article yesterday on Zero Hedge, Fed's third year-end repo oversubscribed again amid liquidity scramble as December 16 tax day looms. Yeah, I'll put this article below in the description of the video. You can go through it. Basically, the repo market is not out of the woods. The BIS as well mentioned in a report on Sunday, and I spoke about this in my live stream on Sunday, that hedge funds are heavily involved in the repo market, and that they were the ones who triggered a lot of the problems, right? Repo market basically is where a lot of the financial institutions, the shadow banking, the big Wall Street banks, the hedge funds, the mutual funds, that's where they fund their daily operations by lending out collateral like U.S. Treasuries. And that isn't working. And they've noted here in this article that the longer term repos, because they're usually overnight, right? But the longer term repos, there are above 3%. So, which is twice the rate of the Fed funds rate, right? Which is 1.5 to 175. Now, with that, I'll go into gold and silver. Why you need to have, or in my opinion, if one does have fiat currency or their national currency, dollars, pounds, euros, Aussie dollar, Japanese yen, if they have a surplus of this in the bank, in deposit, earning nothing, or sometimes like in Germany now, I think they're charging people for keeping money in the bank. If you have a surplus there, I think it would be wise to protect that through taking it out of the system and acquiring gold and silver. And by that, I don't mean ETFs or gold stocks, which is more speculation, of course, gold stocks. I'm not going to advise on mining stocks here. But yes, why is it insurance outside the system? Well, because in the financial system, you always have a counterparty between you and your funds, right? You have a broker, you have a bank. Sometimes you have more than one if you buy ETFs, right? You have the people who run the ETF, you have the broker who holds it. You've got too many counterparties. With physical gold and silver, you're holding it in your hand. Sometimes you might want to store it. That is a counterparty, but it is outside this system, which seems to me that is very, very much in trouble at the moment. Have you heard President Trump tweet about the repo, how the Fed is pumping hundreds of billions into the system in the last few months? Over 300 billion, right? Their balance sheet is inflating again. They're like, they're having to sustain this debt bubble. No, you don't hear that. And that's why it's so important to have something outside the system. Not just if you have cash in the bank, but also if you have a portfolio of bonds or equities and other paper assets. I think things are getting quite, how can I say, unsettled. It's always good to be prepared, because once this system unravels, it will be impossible to protect yourself. Hopefully, a lot of you have already started protecting yourselves by doing dollar cost averaging of precious metals, be it gold or silver. Hopefully you've all been stacking, right? That's what I've been doing. And I would say the main reason for all the uncertainty in the market, for all the troubles in the plumbing of Wall Street, as they call the repo market, I would say this chart here tells the whole story. So this is from the Federal Reserve, source Federal Reserve, BEA Morgan Stanley Research. It says U.S. debt to GDP going back 100 years, basically. March 1920 to the present day. And this is U.S. debt to GDP. The blue part is government debt. The orange is GSC and agency debt, government-sponsored entities and agencies, right? The reddish one there is household debt, corporate debt, and financial debt. Look at what levels we are. We're at the highest levels ever, except for when the 2008 crisis came about, right? But we're even higher than in the roaring 20s, right? This is what it's all about. The more debt the system incurs, the more debt it needs to keep going. But there comes a point where the straw breaks the camel's back, right? And this whole house of cards implodes. And at the bottom of that inverted pyramid of liquidity, as John Exter used to say, is gold. Silver as well, of course, but gold is the most important, in my opinion. It is real money. It will protect you financially, and that's why you need to have gold and silver as well as insurance outside the system. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please share it far and wide. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on Twitter, Steemit, and on DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.